In Causton, a talk radio host is found murdered on her wedding night. Can Barnaby and Winter solve the case before the killer knocks off someone else in a bridal gown? No, they don't. We're talking broken families
The history of radio.
and the love story of John and Sarah Barnaby in this episode of
Welcome to Midsomer.
Hello and welcome to Midsomer, the podcast where we dissect all the mysteries, the murders, and the many weird things about the long-running hit TV show Midsomer Murders. I'm your host, Eric Buscher, and with me as always is my co-host, Eileen Becker. Hey, Eileen.
Hey, Eric, we are talking about Till Death Do Us Part, the 5th episode of the 20th series. It originally streamed on Acorn May 3rd, 2018, and aired in the UK on June 2nd, 2019. It was directed by Audrey Cook and written by Helen Jenkins. Let's get on the dance floor.
Spoiler warning, we will be discussing the events of this episode, including the identity of the murderer. So if you haven't watched it yet and don't want to know who done it, pause this and go watch it. We will still be here when you get back.
Ribbon. Looks like it might have been cut from the lacing on her corset. Okay, that's different.
Tied in a bow around her tongue.
Laurel was a talk show host on Midsomer FM. When Sarah found her, the radio was on full blast and tuned to her station.
Well, that sends a pretty clear message.
Any thoughts on cause of death?
Not sure yet. But from the way this dress has been tightened, she might have been squeezed to death.
While nighttime Midsomer FM talk show host Jordan Briggs argues with callers about drug legalization and hands out Pratt points, his co-host Laurel Newman celebrates her wedding to Gavin Webster by hitting up the dance floor. John Barnaby and his wife Sarah are in attendance because Sarah is college friends with Gavin's mom, Hazel. Laurel walks her octogenarian best friend Marsha Jackson to her car, then meets up with someone smoking in the shadows. A short time later, wedding planner Juliet Evans tries to gather everyone for a photo. Gavin rolls up, but no one can find Laurel. Sarah looks in the bridal suite and finds Laurel dead on the bed. Cue the theme. The rest of the Midsomer police force is brought in to investigate. Flora says that Laurel was most likely squeezed to death using her own corset. Someone tightened it so much that it caused internal damage. They also cut a ribbon from the bodice and tied it around Laurel's tongue post-mortem, which makes it seem like kind of a message. Winter finds 3 small beads on the ground that don't match any of the clothing there. A grieving Gavin angrily tells them that Laurel, who could be very controversial on air, has been receiving death threats from listeners, including receiving dead animals. They tried going to the police, but the police weren't much help. He said, well, it's because in Midsomer you have to be dead before the police do anything. He says he was decorating their bridal cottage at the time of the murder. Evans tells them Laurel had gone to the room to change into a second dress for more photos, but they can't find that dress. Maybe that's where the beads came from. Hazel, Gavin, and Father Phil return home, where they discover their home broken into. Hazel wants to call the police, but Phil, a former solicitor who just spent 2 years in prison for fraud, says no. Meanwhile, wedding server Grace Briggs returns home to her father, Jordan, who wants to know where she was. So Laurel and Jordan were co-hosts on the talk show and often argued with each other on air. Jordan was supposed to attend the wedding, but decided at the last minute he would do the show solo. Laurel's maid of honor, Aisha, also works at the station as the show's producer. She says several callers had issues with her, and it probably didn't help that she mentioned her wedding venue many, many times on air. They find a card for something called Madam X in her purse, with a number registered to a burner phone. They listened to her last show, where she argued that it's okay to let some people die, then played a jazz song for someone special, which wasn't unusual for her. The jazz song wasn't unusual for her. She often thought people should die. Was this song a message to an ex? One person who hated Laurel was Serena Madison, Gavin's ex-fiancée, who he jilted at the altar for Laurel. Serena's family is well off, and she inherited a stake in Midsomer FM, and Laurel was convinced Serena was trying to get her show canceled. Serena is also a wedding dress designer, and Laurel was wearing one of her designs. Now they visit Serena in her shop and inform her that Laurel was murdered. She isn't exactly upset. She says she actually introduced Gavin and Laurel at a station party, and she felt very humiliated on her wedding day. she said she's had zero contact with them ever since. Laurel's dress was part of a magazine contest that Laurel won, and Serena had already promised to provide the dress to the winner, so she couldn't really back out. She also isn't a majority shareholder in the station and has no real power to have any show canceled. Jordan confronts Juliet and tells her to stay away from his daughter, but Grace is 18 and Juliet says she can do what she wants. The detectives talk to Marcia, who says she saw Laurel with the smoker, but believes that Laurel would never cheat on Gavin. They then talk to Gavin, who says he hates jazz music, so the dedication was not for him. He says he was with Serena for 4 years, but when he met Laurel, that was it. He didn't have the guts to break up with Serena, though, so he had his brother Noel do it on their wedding day. He also says Serena couldn't be the one sending dead animals, as she's a vegan animal lover. He shows them a dead rabbit that was sent to Laurel he's been keeping in his flower shop freezer, a rabbit with its tongue tied up with a ribbon. Now, McFleur examines this dead rabbit and finds a microchip, so they will be able to trace it back to its owners. They determine that the time of the murder was between 10:36 and 11, and that the beads are antiques. The detectives return to the Websters, where they find Phil making chutney, his new way of earning money since getting out of prison. Laurel and Gavin live there for 2 months before the wedding, and the detectives find a hole punched into the wall of their room. Hazel says it's an ancient hole, while Phil admits that he has panic attacks about prison and made the hole during one. Now, the family suffered a tragedy when their son Noel, who was studying to be a doctor, died during an epileptic fit. Since then, the family has been ripped apart and the marriage has hit the rocks. After they leave, Hazel asks why Phil contradicted her about the hole. He says because her lie was unbelievable, but his lie, much, much better. He's wrong, though, as the detectives realize pretty quickly his story was BS because Phil, rather than having panic attacks, goes back to prison regularly to mentor, even going on the morning of the wedding. Serena tells the detectives that she's not the bad guy. Laurel was the monster and even screamed at Juliet during wedding preparations. Juliet says, hey, that happens all the time. The detectives found Juliet's laptop in Laurel's hotel room, which featured the kind of high end encryption organized crime uses. Juliet says she has to use that kind of encryption to protect her client's information. She was also charged with violent assault 7 years prior, but that was because she caught her boyfriend of the time cheating and she lashed out. Meanwhile, Sarah's been listening to the radio show to help John and says that Jordan is a big jazz lover. So maybe the jazz song was secretly to him. Now, footage from the wedding shows Gavin arguing with Grace at the time he says he was in the cottage. Gavin admits that he stopped to argue with Grace because he saw her steal champagne, but decided to let it go. Now, Grace confirms this when the detectives talk to her at the local wedding fair where she is modeling Serena's dresses. Gavin and Juliet are also working the fair, and Jordan is doing some DJing. Aisha tells them that Jordan is a player and probably hit on Laurel, as well as tried to get her off the show. Serena tells the detectives that she has dirt on Jordan and she will tell them all about it after the runway show. Unfortunately, when Serena takes the stage for her bow, she is shot during a confetti explosion and dies. Now, tourist info, we're back in Causton this episode, which also appears in Death of a Hollow Man, The Ghost of Causton Abbey, The Lions of Causton, and The Miniature Murders. It's the home to the headquarters of the Midsomer Police Force, as well as the home of the Barnabys. You can see a rugby game, visit the toy museum, or have a beer. You can also have your wedding there, but just make sure you don't have, any enemies on the guest list, because that tends to end bad.
That could be true of so many of our locations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, now though we don't see much of the town of Causton in this, Thame in Oxfordshire usually stands in for that fictional town. Located about 13 miles from Oxford, it currently has a population of just under 12,000. Thame Abbey was founded in 1138 and the town grew up around it, though the abbey was torn down in the reign of Henry VIII during the dissolution of the abbeys. The Webster's home, with its distinctive brick nogging, is a house on High Street called Stribel Hills, built in the 17th century. The distinctive town hall can be spotted in a few episodes, including Days of Misrule, and many of the shops and pubs seen during the course of the show are along its commercial streets. The Thame Museum has a nice website, and the museum itself includes a brand new Robin Gibb gallery, as the late B.G. lived in Thame until his death in 2012.
Can you imagine if this show had the budget to actually afford a Bee Gees song? The dance floor would have been really a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, you can always tell when they splurge on an actual real song.
It's still just never a real song you've ever heard. All right, we had a couple of strange kills. We're going to talk right now about the first one, squeezed to death. Now, Laurel is murdered when her corset is tightened to the point that her rib snaps and ruptures her spleen, causing massive internal bleeding. She then has a ribbon cut from her corset and tied around her tongue after she's dead. Now, according to Fleur, this happened a lot in the 18th century, which is true. Corsets back then were tightened to the point that it caused fainting, organ deformation and displacement, and occasionally death.
Sometimes, I mean,
Sometimes, not all the time.
You weren't supposed to tighten your corset that
Exactly.
And I don't think a modern wedding dress with plastic stays would have really been able to do that.
Right.
This is not, whaleboning or steel rods.
Are you saying that this murder was implausible?
And silk ribbon would have ripped. Trust me, I know that one for firsthand. Yeah.
Anyone want to know more? Anyone
No.
listening want to know more? Okay. Laurel dies on her wedding night. This is not the first time this has happened in Midsomer. I do believe there's at least one or two other episodes where the bride or someone's murdered at a wedding.
The most lethal thing you can do after opening the door and saying, "Oh, it's you," is get married.
Yeah. Now the Sarah, we see Sarah Barnaby discovering the body. They time it so she finds the body just as fireworks go off.
Yeah.
Which was odd.
Yeah.
And Laurel was in her room attempting to put on a second dress, which is a thing. This has become a thing in the last few years, so that the bride can actually go out and party and celebrate in something less formal, maybe less risking less damage to the wedding dress, but also it is so that the bridal industry can make even more money on selling that second dress.
It's amazing how much of our bridal culture and our wedding culture is so somebody can make money. Because like diamond rings were not a thing until De Beers decided that we're going to advertise it this way, and then of course everybody had to have a diamond engagement ring. Not a thing before then, and that was in the early 20th century. The whole white wedding dress wasn't a thing until Queen Victoria, and then of course everybody was like, oh, we have to make every bride in white. Yeah, so and the whole second wedding dress thing is it's kind of dumb.
Weddings are expensive things, and I guess if you have the money to have a big fancy wedding, you might have the money for a second dress. But nothing beats running down to City Hall, folks. I'm gonna tell you right now. Use your government.
Yeah, and also apparently since the second dress was not paid for, shall we say, and the wedding wasn't paid for, it was paid for by this magazine, they're getting kind of a good deal out of this wedding.
Yep. Oh yeah. So let's talk a little bit about Laurel. She is a talk radio host for Midsomer FM, which has the absolute worst jingle I've ever heard for a radio station.
And that's saying something.
Yep. I couldn't tell what the point of the show was, because so apparently she and Jordan would talk about issues with callers and that they would often argue. But I couldn't tell what they would argue about, because they both seem to have pretty conservative viewpoints.
Yep.
They both of the the viewpoints that we hear from Jordan talking about and Laurel, and it's just, they're gross. Did they fight over who was worse?
Yeah. It's like those bro podcasts where they're, the two...
Oh, the Manosphere?
Yeah, and they're just agreeing with each other, arguing loudly, but really agreeing with each other.
Oh, I wish we had those ratings. I wish we could. Oh,
let's argue more.
let's talk about politics.
No.
So they describe Laurel as someone who is pro euthanasia. Which is that really that controversial nowadays?
I think amongst a very conservative religious set of people, it is.
That's fair. However, what she was actually saying was, hey, just some people should just be left to die.
Yeah.
Which is not euthanasia.
No. No.
That's just sadism.
Yeah.
And it's no wonder that she was getting crazy death threats.
Yeah.
It was interesting that they did say that they went to the police, and the police did not take it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
and said, just keep a log.
That's pretty much all the police can do unless an actual law has been broken. I mean,
I
they
do
can.
think getting the dead animals would count, though.
Yeah, that should have been a death threat, which
Yeah.
they should have done something about. Yeah,
Exactly.
any death threats they should be investigating, but
Maybe
yeah,
they just didn't like the show.
maybe they didn't. I mean, I will talk about Laurel's personality later because it does figure into this, or
Mhm.
the lack of actually seeing any of her personality.
Yes.
But maybe they didn't like her.
Yeah. They had a fancy wedding because Laurel and Gavin won some sort of magazine wedding competition. Considering she works in radio, it seems a little suspect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like how like was it just which midsummer celebrity can win a contest?
And that was weird. Was it like just anybody, any bride? It was at one of those bridal fairs. I mean, we see one of those in the show, and was the magazine sponsoring something, and you won it?
Felt like a real thumb on the scale, right?
Oh, definitely.
I just couldn't understand how they won.
Yeah. And it seems to me like that was a needless complication, and it would have maybe been a little more interesting if Laurel had decided to get one of Serena's dresses just out of spite. Who knows?
That would have been more interesting, but I also feel
Yeah.
like that would have I also don't know how that would have happened because Serena would have said,
No.
no.
Yeah.
Gavin is so lost in the grief of losing his new wife that he's immediately working the next day. Man, it's not like it's just like you lost an uncle.
No.
Also, it just looked vaguely weird and suspicious, as did keeping the dead rabbit
Yeah.
in the freezer of his flower shop.
That would have been a bit of let me look at the flowers in this case. Oh, there's a dead rabbit in there.
At one point, he gets so incensed that he waves a knife in a police officer's face.
Mm-hmm.
How come nobody else got arrested in this episode? I mean, he was a very angry character. And again, we will talk in the second half once the killer is revealed why he's so angry. I don't know. There was something unbelievable there was so much unbelievable about like a lot of like how people behaved in this.
Mm-hmm.
His behavior just kept striking me as like, no, that's not what human beings do.
Mm-hmm.
Since we have to spend so much time at this radio station that somehow still exists even in 2018. Radio was a dying medium even then. Why don't you take us to the history of radio?
All right. In 1864, Scottish physicist James Clerk Maxwell proposed his theories of electromagnetism with mathematical proofs that light, radio, and X-rays were all types of electromagnetic waves. 20 years later, German physicist Heinrich Rudolf Hertz proved Maxwell's theory by transmitting radio waves through the air. Many scientists experimented with radio waves, also called Hertzian waves, with the aim of using them for communication. However, it was thought that the uses were limited due to the early inability to transmit the waves over anything but very short ranges. In 1894, Guglielmo Marconi had read through all the research and began to experiment. Marconi was born in Bologna, Italy, to an Italian aristocrat, Giuseppe Marconi, and his second wife, Annie Jameson, the granddaughter of the Jameson Irish whiskey founder. Young Marconi was interested in science and engineering and attended physics classes at the University of Bologna, where he was encouraged in his experiments with wireless telegraphy. In 1895, he had a breakthrough when he moved his experiments out of the laboratory. Outside, he was able to raise the height of his antenna and ground his transmitter and receiver. This allowed his Hertzian waves to travel further than the 1/2 mile that English physicist Oliver Lodge predicted the previous year as the maximum transmission distance. Soon Marconi was able to transmit radio waves up to 2 miles and over hills. He applied for a British patent in 1896 and founded the Wireless Telegraph Trading Signal Company, later named the Marconi Company, in 1897. Marconi was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1909, sharing it with German physicist Ferdinand Braun, who contributed many improvements to radio and who also invented the cathode ray tube in 1897, which led to the development of television, as well as the first semiconductor. His work in radio included a bunch of stuff I did not understand, but it was all very important. Seriously, I read it a bunch of times and nothing. Didn't understand a word. In 1904, British electrical engineer John Ambrose Fleming invented the first vacuum tube, which allowed transmission of audio communication, an improvement over the spark gap transmitters which could only be used for Morse code. As transmitters, receivers, and the antennae grew taller and more powerful, radio waves could travel longer distances, and ships were soon equipped with wireless telegraphs, a development credited with saving the 700 people who managed to survive the sinking of the Titanic in 1912. Scientists and inventors continued to improve wireless telegraphy, including Canadian-American inventor Reginald Fessenden and American inventor Lee DeForest. Fessenden is credited with the first voice transmission over radio waves, while DeForest was Marconi's main entrepreneurial competition in the U.S. His company transmitted music over radio waves in 1907, followed soon by mezzo-soprano Eugenia Ferrar singing I Love You Truly in what is considered the first live radio singing performance. The first commercial radio broadcast was on November 2, 1920, when the Westinghouse Electric and Manufacturing Company in Pittsburgh broadcast the returns of the Harding-Cox presidential election. They did this under the call sign KDKA, the world's first commercially licensed radio station. In 1921, they broadcast its first professional baseball game, a Pirates' victory over the Phillies. Initially, radio was seen as a form of media similar to newspapers, but as radios became more numerous in homes, its impact increased. In 1923, 1% of U.S. households owned a radio. In 1925, it was up to at least 10%. In 1930, it was 40%, and by 1940, over 80% of homes owned radios. During the Great Depression of the 1930s, it was considered a source of low-cost entertainment. In addition to sports and news, radio stations broadcast music, changing the musical landscape of the U.S. and other countries. Before radio, most popular songs became so because they were sold through sheet music or performed on stage. Records eventually became available, but music performed live and broadcast over radio waves could reach a larger audience. We discussed the growth and popularity of jazz and big band music in our episode on Dark Autumn, but radio stations also played classical music and regional music. Country, blues, and folk spread from regional sounds to national popularity. In 1925, a program called Barn Dance, broadcast out of Nashville, followed an hour of classical music. Renamed the Grand Ole Opry in 1927, it was picked up for national syndication in 1939, and it's still being broadcast. With improvements in microphone technology, singers could be heard better and became famous. Frank Sinatra, Bing Crosby, Ella Fitzgerald, Rosemary Clooney, the Andrews Sisters, and Billie Holiday are just some of the names that became big over radio. Comedy giants who started in radio included Jack Benny, Burns and Allen, and Abbott and Costello. News was also an important part of radio, uniting a nation as they listened to the news broadcasts of people affected by the Ohio and Mississippi floods of 1935, giving an immediacy to events that could be far away. Dispatches from the front lines of World War II by Edward R. Murrow and others brought war into homes as no other medium had done since the development of photography. Soap operas, radio plays, quiz shows, variety hours, comedies, and cooking shows were just part of the tapestry that made up the golden age of radio, which spanned from the 1920s through the 1950s, when radio was surpassed by television as a broadcast medium. In the U.S., national networks such as NBC, ABC, and CBS got their start, and they would eventually take over the television airwaves. In the UK, the British Broadcasting Corporation, or the BBC, was licensed through the General Post Office in 1922. The BBC held a monopoly on radio broadcast rights until 1973. However, the International Broadcasting Company, the IBC, was set up in 1931, broadcasting from leased transmitters in continental Europe to Britain and Ireland. Radio during World War II was essential for the spread of news and information, as well as for boosting morale. In 1955, the newly formed Sony introduced the first transistor radios, a handheld radio that was small enough to fit into a pocket. It was powered by a small battery and had no vacuum tubes to wear out. Coincidentally, this was also the same time that rock and roll exploded into popularity. While cars have had radio since 1930, FM radio wasn't introduced until 1952. Satellite radio came along in 1999. Talk radio has been around since radio's infancy, with evangelist Amy Semple McPherson becoming famous all over the U.S. In the 1930s, Father Charles Coughlin reached millions preaching demagoguery and anti-Semitism. Listener participation radio shows and call-in shows also rose during the 1930s. The 1957 film A Face in the Crowd explores the power of fame through the story of a drifter named Lonesome Rhodes, who rises to national fame through his radio show. Confrontational talk radio began in the 1960s with The Joe Pine Show, which is syndicated to over 250 radio stations in the U.S. AM stations turned more to talk radio, while the better quality FM radio drew in the music listeners. The rise of shock jocks in the 1980s and 90s made Howard Stern and Don Imus famous in the U.S. In the wake of the repeal of the Fairness Doctrine in 1987, American conservative talk radio saw the rise of Rush Limbaugh, Glenn Beck, Laura Ingraham, and Bill O'Reilly, among others. A variety of viewpoints no longer had to be represented fairly over the public airways, so talk radio hosts could spew whatever they wanted. Video may not have killed the radio star, but television, satellite, radio, and podcasts have made it just one of the mediums screaming for your attention into the 21st century.
Do you still listen to the radio?
Mainly just in the car.
I mean, I don't drive that much, and so I tend to just hook in my phone and listen to like a podcast or music on my phone. So I don't really, I'm as a kid, obviously you would drive, and I could still remember like the radio shows I would listen to. And when I moved to New York, Howard Stern was still on regular radio, and I would often set my alarm to his show because it was he was a morning show guy, and I do remember just a number of times being woken up. What did he just say? What? Huh? What?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like when you look at that list of people, right? Like Howard Stern famously went to Sirius to satellite radio. Imus was basically forced to retire. Like he lost to Howard Stern and kind of just ended up retiring. Limbaugh passed away. Glenn Beck went to TV, and now I believe he does like internet, like podcast TV shows. Laura Ingraham has gone to TV, and Bill O'Reilly went to TV, and now I think he's actually back to internet TV and podcasts.
Yeah,
it is interesting as how podcasts and like kind of the rise of sort of you don't even need your own network anymore if you're loud enough. You create your own network, you control all of it.
And what we're seeing, I do know that some people do listen to some of these podcasts kind of live and stuff like that. But with both television and streaming television and podcasts, people are listening to things more on their schedule. There isn't we all have to sit down and listen to Jack Benny at the same time every week, or Burns and Allen kind of thing. Or this music variety show that Rosemary Clooney's going to be on, so we're all going to sit and listen to it. So we have this? I think it's part of the fracturing of our culture, because radio was one of the first really, really strong mediums that united the country culturally as so that everybody was talking about the same thing at the same time.
I think also podcasts have just become visual. Like there is nowadays there's a huge thing of watching two people talk on a microphone. For if you've logged on to Netflix in the last few months, you've seen they have a number of podcasts that is now available that you could, that's just like YouTube does, just two people talking. Like we, Eileen and I have talked about doing a visual component to this, and honestly, I think it's more like we don't want to.
Yeah, I'd actually have to like put on, real close.
We'd have to like set up the system. I mean, is it, we do this with like, bubblegum and shoestring, and Eileen and I are talking into two cans tied together.
Yeah. Yeah, and one's in New York and one's in Ohio, so that's a long string.
So, but it is. But a lot of people are kind of discovering podcasts through the visual side, as opposed to And this is not an old medium. This is a new medium. This started less than 20 years ago.
Yeah, I think so. And the thing is that in many ways, the oral component returns us to the purpose of radio at the time, where people could be entertained while doing other things. You can do that with a podcast. I do it all the time with a podcast. You know, I'm doing something else and I'll turn on a podcast. You know, and old time radio. I mean, you know, even those, you know, for some of the major stuff, the family would gather around,
Yeah.
you know, the old timey set and listen as a group. A lot of times it was just on in the background, and you were listening to it while you were doing other things.
Mm-hmm. Maybe people will get tired of the visual side again and go back to, or they'll find a new way of doing it, or maybe they'll just, you know, there is a lot of talk now about Gen Alpha is really big into physical media.
Yeah.
Again, trying to get away from screens and everything like that. So maybe there's a place for radio to find a new life.
That's true. Maybe it still is. It's still out there. Radio waves obviously are used for a lot more than just radio transmission. You know, you know. So
like what?
Well, the technology, we would not have Wi-Fi, we would not have GPS without any of this kind of stuff. I mean, basically, the discovery of these electromagnetic waves made the modern world possible.
I just thought I could stump you, but that's...
You can't stump me. I read all this stuff, and I read a lot more than I actually put into my history stuff. So, and yeah, like I said, I was reading all the scientific stuff about the one guy, and I was just like, I have no idea what any of this is about, and I'm going to admit that.
This is gobbledygook.
Yeah, I mean, it all sounded very important, and then I was like, really made it more effective and everything, but yeah.
Why don't you take us through the cast highlights?
Okay. Michael Fox, not Michael J. Fox, played grieving groom Gavin Webster. Most people will recognize him from his role on Downton Abbey, especially his wife, Laura Carmichael, who played Lady Edith. He's also been in Dunkirk, Endeavour, and Little Big Mouth. He's a musician with several EPs as well. Nick Hancock was chutney cooking Phil Webster. He's a Cambridge man who took part in Cambridge Footlights, the famous student sketch comedy group. He has a long career as a presenter, best known for the show Room 101. He also appeared in They Think It's All Over, Win My Wage, and Mr. Bean. Camilla Arfwedson played coked-up Serena Madison. She is best known for her role in Holby City and appeared in The Duchess, the reboot of MacGyver, and Wrong Turn 5, Bloodlines. She was the television spokesperson for a travel website called Secret Escapes, which sounds like something Madam X would use.
Doesn't it?
It really does. Colin McFarlane was hater of Pratt's Jordan Briggs. Nerds will recognize him as Commissioner Loeb in the first two Christian Bale Batman films, as well as his multiple appearances on Doctor Who and Torchwood. No surprise, he's a popular voice actor who has appeared in Bob the Builder, Thomas and Friends, and Fireman Sam. That's a toddler trio there.
Mm-hmm.
In 2023, he went public with his diagnosis of prostate cancer and has become a spokesperson for Prostate Cancer UK, urging Black men over 50 to get tested. Maya Sandhi played manipulative co-worker Aisha Khalik. Sandhi is both a screenwriter and actress. She appeared in Casualty, Citizen Khan, and The Adventures of Paddington. She also appeared in several seasons of the hit Line of Duty, where she worked with writer-producer Jed Mercurio. This would be very fruitful because Mercurio helped produce the show D.I. Ray, created and written by Sandhi.
I love Jed Mercurio's stuff. I have to admit, D.I. Ray was one that I have not gotten to yet.
Me neither, yeah.
And sadly, that's probably why it got canceled with season 2.
Oh, no.
but Line of Duty, that is a great show.
Yeah, that is on my list of things that I want to watch when I can handle something more serious.
And intense. It is so intense.
Yeah, I know. There's every once in a while I'll try to watch something intense, and right now my viewing habits have been more escapism. So
okay,
yeah.
Then how are you doing this show? It's so serious.
Ella Balinska played Champers-stealing Grace Briggs. She comes from an accomplished lineage. Her mom is the Food Network star Lorraine Pascal. Balinska was one of the stars of the 2019 reboot Charlie's Angels with Kristen Stewart, and she appeared in the Resident Evil TV show on Netflix. She is also a techno DJ. I just didn't know there was a Charlie's Angels reboot with Kristen Stewart, and I'm kind of glad I didn't. Gabrielle Glaister is Make 'em and Break 'em Juliet Evans. As a young actor, she starred in Oliver Twist as the lead alongside comedy legend Ben Elton as the Artful Dodger. She's appeared in Blackadder, Coronation Street, and Brookside. Liz Fraser played grieving widow Marcia Jackson. She has a long career in the British film industry, appearing in multiple Carry On films, The Americanization of Emily, On the Fiddle, and Up the Junction. This is actually her last on-screen appearance, as she passed away from surgery complications shortly after this ep in 2018. In 2022, she had a lifeboat named after her. Kelly Brook was big Euthanation fan Laurel Newman. So this is essentially a cameo for Brooke, who's been a big-time media presence in the UK since the 2000s. She made the FHM Sexiest Women of the World list every year between 1998 and 2015. She appeared in Strictly Come Dancing, Britain's Got Talent, The Masked Dancer, and I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. In 2014, in an interview promoting her memoir, men's domestic violence awareness groups got upset with Brooke when she laughed about punching her ex-boyfriends, action movie star Jason Statham and professional rugby player Danny Cipriani, in their faces.
Return visitors, we don't have any this week. This is one of those rare Midsummers where there wasn't anybody who's actually been in the show before, except for all the great repeat uncredited actors who helped keep that dance floor bumping. So we want to give a quick shout out to Lee Byford, David Clement Horton, Lorraine Dix, Johnny Freeman, Ruth Horrocks, Ty Hurley, Anna O'Grady, Mike Ray, June Smith, Len Webster, Joe Wheatley, and Jacqueline Watson McKee, as well as our mayor of Midsomer, Chris Wilson, for their work in this episode. Now, our village star this week was Fenella Woolgar, who played mother-in-law Hazel Webster. Woolgar hails from London and actually spent part of her childhood in Connecticut, so apparently she had an American accent for a few years as a child. She is a RADA grad, and her first on-screen appearance was in the show People Like Us. She's appeared in Bright Young Things, Call the Midwife, Vera Drake, and Doctor Who, where she played Agatha Christie in a very popular episode. She's also done a lot of audiobook narration and was nominated for Audiobook of the Year for her recording of Life After Life by Kate Atkinson. Now, believe it or not, she has spare time, and and in it, she is an oil painter and apparently won Celebrity Portrait Artist of the Year.
That's pretty cool. I actually love that Agatha Christie episode of Doctor Who, so it's and that's where I remember her from most. Yeah. But I definitely need to check out that audiobook of Life After Life.
She's great. I thought she was great in this episode. She clinched it with her performance in the last 15 minutes of the episode.
Oh yeah.
Like a number of these episodes where there's nothing really breaking out. It's usually during the reveal, when we get that performance that's gonna knock it out of the park.
Yeah.
We're gonna take a quick break here, and we'll be back with the second half of Till Death Do Us Part.
You're listening to Late Night with Jordan Briggs. The phone lines are open, so don't be shy. So what? Legalize it all and hope for the best?
No.
Great logic.
You think you're so clever, don't you? You're like an expert on everything, but you don't know what you're talking about.
Personal insults already. Well done, Barry. You win the prize. Most moronic call of the show so far. 11 Pratt points to you.
And we're back. Let's talk about the second half of Till Death Do Us Part.
And that was the first time that you laid eyes on him?
Yep. He'd really gone for it. Brown tight, paper mache shell, the work.
Can I just point out this was a charity fundraising event in the student bar?
You seduced your wife while dressed as a tortoise. That's as much as I need to know. He wanted to chat me up, but he waited till he saw me and Hazel leaving the bar. Only he forgot he'd have to turn sideways to get through the door.
Serena shot by a confetti cannon rigged to shoot ball bearings at her. The killer would have had to know where she would be standing, so it was someone who attended her show the day before. In her bag backstage, they find more Madam X cards. Was she Madam X? Jordan says he has no idea what Serena was going to say about him. He barely knows her. Her autopsy shows that she was suffering from a big cocaine habit, and her solicitor says she was planning to finally change her will in the next week. But the current beneficiary is still Gavin, since he also inherits Laurel's money since they got married and is himself heavily in debt. He is now a major suspect. He also received an email 3 weeks prior that had a photo of him kissing Grace. Gavin says that since he had a history of cheating, he believed Laurel hired Grace as a honey trap to see if he could remain honest. He couldn't. But apparently Grace did not turn him into Laurel, she blackmailed him. That's why they argued at the wedding, and when Gavin had her back up his alibi, she charged him for that too. You know what, Grace? Respect. I respect the hustle. Turns out Grace and Serena both work for Madam X, which is the honey trap agency. Barnaby figures out that the boss is Juliet, and Grace is scared Juliet's going to think that she told him because when Serena threatened to expose her, Juliet went crazy. Now, Juliet admits to running Madam X and says she and Serena patched up whatever their disagreement was. Serena treated exposing cheaters like it was a crusade and would even get into screaming matches with them. She says that Aisha hired them to check out Gavin, and Grace told her that he passed. They next head to the prison where Phil is doing his latest mentoring session. They catch him on camera swapping out a jar of chutney on the prison pantry shelf. They pull out the jar and find cocaine. He says he has been forced to do this since he was not able to find work since his release. He says he works for someone who provides the drugs and the instructions, but says no one else knew about it. Hazel revealed she actually figured it out when he didn't report the break-in. And then the detectives let him go. The detectives then learn that Aisha lives near the owners of the dead rabbit, so they question her and she admits that she was in love with Laurel. She wasn't trying to hurt her, but after she saw how Laurel leaned on her when she received some attacks online, she thought it'd be a way to drive her into her arms. So that's why she sent her the dead rabbit. And guess what? They don't arrest her for that either. And she says she didn't like Gavin and hired Madam X to help break them up, but Gavin passed the test. Or so she believes. Sarah tells her husband that she spent several hours with Marcia and learned that Marcia's deceased husband was a jazz musician who played the exact song Laurel played on her last broadcast. Marcia tells them that the dedication was for her and that Laurel actually helped Eddie, her husband, commit euthanasia when he was dying from cancer. Unfortunately, John will have to report this. The next morning, Aisha's body is found at the radio tower. While at first glance it looks like Laurel jumped, the lack of anti-climbing paint on her hands and clothes indicates she did not, and the lividity of her body suggests that she was moved post-mortem. It looks like she left work at 1:17 a.m., then was killed, and then her body was dumped at the tower. Before she died, she accessed the station's dead air bank, where they keep 8 hours of pre-recorded material in case something happens at the studio. She must have discovered that an hour of it was used the night of Laurel's murder, the night Jordan was broadcasting alone. Cameras show Jordan leaving the station at 10:30 when he claimed to be on the air, and they find emails sent to him by Phil with numbers in them. Barnaby realizes that these numbers are the weights of the cocaine hidden in the prison, and they match with the Pratt points Jordan would broadcast. Jordan admits that Phil had found out Jordan used Grace to cover up some speeding points on his license and was blackmailing him to broadcast the grams. He broke into their house looking for evidence to clear him on the night of Laurel's murder, and his dash cam confirms his story. He says Serena found out from Grace about the points, and that was her juicy dirt against him. Aisha confronted him the night she died, but he says he did not kill her. Going through the wedding photos, Barnaby realizes that Laurel was missing the something borrowed in the photos, and so maybe the missing outfit was the borrowed piece and the killer took it back because it could be traced to them. This means that the killer is also someone who knew Laurel planned to change, and then they find some photos showing her grandmother-in-law in a beaded dress. Meanwhile, Sarah drops by the Websters where she sees Hazel smoking and holding a dress bag. Sarah attempts to leave, but Hazel panics and tackles her, putting pruning shears to the throat of her college best friend. Barnaby and Winter arrive in time and Barnaby knocks Hazel off his wife. Once she is arrested, we get the reveal. Hazel and Phil's son Noel did not die from epilepsy. He died from a cocaine overdose. He had struggled with addiction, and when they couldn't get him into recovery, they tried to reduce his dependence on the drug. So they kept him at home and then would buy him drugs to administer him smaller doses. It was during a withdrawal period that he punched a hole in the wall. To get the drugs, Phil defrauded his customers and ended up in debt to drug dealers, hence his current dealing. Laurel did not approve of what they were doing and ended up finding his body. Hazel was convinced that Laurel let Noel die, so after hearing her say that some people can't be saved on her radio show, she decided to get the truth out of her. She used the corset to get answers, ultimately killing her by accident. She used the ribbon around the tongue because she had seen the rabbit and wanted to mislead the police. Now, Laurel said that Serena was the one who got Noel deep into drugs to get revenge on Gavin. So Hazel killed Serena for her revenge. However, Phil figured it all out and they argued, and that's when Aisha, who had come to their house to tell them about Jordan, overheard them. Hazel ended up pushing Aisha, who fell off their porch and died. An irate Gavin sets his parents straight. He was the one who found Noel overdosed and dying and did nothing to revive his brother, saying that after his last overdose, Noel wished he had not survived. Gavin was tired of Noel destroying his family. And thus ends a very unhappy episode.
Yeah. Until the happy part is tacked on at the end.
So we have a second strange kill, death by ball bearings. Serena is killed by a confetti cannon rigged to shoot ball bearings at her. Now, this is something you can do. This is possible. However, it is not a controlled shot like it is in the show.
Yeah.
The ball bearings would shoot at high velocity in every direction, causing ricochets and probably mass damage and injuries.
Yeah.
So realistically, this would not have killed Serena. This could have killed Serena and also a bunch of people.
Yeah. And I don't think it would have like had that direct shot right at her and you know, that instantly caused her to die. I mean, those things would have, you know, taken a while to do some damage.
Yes. Now, Serena was Gavin's ex-fiancée, jilted at the altar, turned into a coked-up crusader against cheaters. It wasn't until they kind of explained the crusading part that I was like, why is she doing Madam X?
Yeah. She didn't need the
She's
money.
rich.
Yeah.
Honestly, she could just hire someone to beat up Gavin.
Yeah.
There is a point where the detectives are interviewing Serena as she talks to a customer, and Serena talks about the tactical tear, the one tear, the little tears that she would let loose to show how beautiful she looks in her dress. And I really thought this was going to be something in the episode. They spent a decent amount of time on it.
Yeah.
And it's nothing.
Yeah. Other than to, I don't know, maybe show that she's duplicitous and manipulative and whatever. But I mean, everybody in that episode is.
She's in sales. And we've all like saying you're a liar and you're in sales is sort of just saying you're in sales.
Hey.
And I say that I'm in sales.
As am I.
And sometimes, you know, but you have to fake the enthusiasm sometimes, right?
I think I tend to say it. I haven't had time to read this, but others have been really excited about it.
Oh wait, are our bosses listening to this? we are enthusiastic about everything.
Everything
is perfect. Gavin broke up with her, what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? She never changed her will?
That seems very, weird.
It made no sense. It was like... Anyways. Let's talk about the killer. And we're going to combine this a little bit with the first part of Home Life because they are so intertwined.
Yeah.
Now, Hazel is the killer. She wanted answers and revenge for her son's death by overdose. We see her at the beginning. She is university best friends with Sarah, and they have maintained a close friendship, but she doesn't seem to like John at all.
For some reason, she looks down on him as a policeman while she's married to a guy who was in prison. And it just seems like her...
Married to a guy while they were both buying tons of cocaine.
Yeah. It seems like, her snobbishness is not warranted. Her sense of superiority is totally misplaced.
Here's what I attribute it to. Because she comments at one point that she never thought Sarah would marry John, but that they actually seem really, really happy. And I think it's quite clear that Hazel is not a happy person.
Yeah.
She's a very angry, probably been angry and upset for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
Sarah is actually just a great friend to Hazel, even doing that weird thing with Marcia, like taking her home and spending hours with her there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Betty must have been thrilled. Do you have anything candy? He's like, I've got these little things you put in the wrappers. Like, okay, I'll go wait in the car. And yet Hazel at one point panics and like I had forgot about that scene where she puts the garden shears to Sarah's throat.
Yeah.
That was intense.
Yeah.
And
it's and I kind of wonder at John like tackling her because it's like, holy crap, she could have easily have like let go of those, and Sarah would have been at least
Yeah.
nicked.
Look, I think we can say that John's had some issues, like at the beginning, right, where Sarah has found the body, and then the next thing we see is Winter comforting Sarah because John's inside investigating. I'm like,
Yeah.
that was your wife.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, at least with Tom and Joyce, when Joyce would find herself in these situations, Tom would at least spend some time with her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it seemed very weird that they wrote it that way because it seems very uncaring. And we know that they're a very loving couple. It seems very out of character.
Yeah. So Hazel and Phil's son Noel is addicted to cocaine. They try to get him off the drugs by reducing his dependence on them. This is not a strategy that most drug counselors would recommend.
Nope.
Here's what confused me. So Phil ended up committing fraud and going bankrupt and having to buy the drugs to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to know how much cocaine costs in Midsomer, because 1 gram of cocaine, and that's a good hit. That's your bump for a couple hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
$120 American.
Okay.
How much did they buy that they had to go bankrupt? He was a solicitor. They had a nice house. Like, did the drug dealers just say, "Oh, we've got some live ones here. Let's just charge them 7 times what we would charge"? How much is a gram? Oh, $2,000.
I think the real question here is, how do you know that how much cocaine is on the street in New
I
York?
Googled it. And you can find this out online. It's a rough estimate,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
You know, certain markets you can get more for better cocaine or what.
Yeah.
But no, it's like they rough it, and that, yeah, I can see like 120 would make sense.
Yeah.
For a gram.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, again, think about like a gram, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is such an infinitesimal part of a pound. I mean, it's a powder, right? You don't need, but it's a powder. You don't need a ton.
Mm-hmm.
How much cocaine did they buy to reduce their dependence? Like, man, he just will not reduce his dependence on cocaine. We should get him some more cocaine.
It seems like a really, really stupid thing to have done as parents. And I know you don't want your child to suffer, but you know, if you're going to spend that much money, get him into a good counseling, get him into a good detox.
Here's my next question. They owe so much money to the drug dealers that now they have to deal drugs.
Yeah.
But they don't even have them just dealing drugs.
Mm-hmm.
They have Phil putting rock cocaine, right? Because that's what Barnaby pulls out.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, pulling out rock cocaine that isn't even in a baggie, so it's just slightly dissolving in chutney.
Yeah, because you know there's acids in chutney. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just slightly making your chutney super cocaine-y.
Well, as all chutney should be. Yeah.
And then bringing them into prison
in
the most contrived and overly complicated plan.
I
hate to break it to people. There is no shortage of drugs in prison.
Yeah.
They don't need this particular plan to get cocaine into prison.
The whole numbers thing was just like weird.
Bring into the fact that like Jordan is doing the Pratt points, right?
Yeah.
Because he had too many speeding points, and so Grace covered for him to take a couple speeding points. So now he is blackmailed into helping smuggle drugs into prison because he's an accessory.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, this is an accessory felony.
Yeah.
Speeding points on your license just means if you get enough of them, you lose your license for a while and you have to get another one.
Yeah.
Why in the hell would you agree to like be blackmailed over an accessory?
Over speeding points.
Over speeding points.
It made no sense.
No.
Yeah, yeah.
This isn't Ocean's 11. Why does he even need to who is he broadcasting to? The people in prison so they know how many grams are there. Well, wouldn't they know it's in the chutney anyways?
Yeah.
Do they not have scales?
I never really understood how it all worked because it was so bizarrely stupid that it didn't really make sense.
By the way, prisons don't have pantries that prisoners can just go and take whatever they want.
Yeah, no.
They have commissaries where prisoners have to buy stuff.
Yeah.
So and Phil would not have, it wouldn't just be in whatever room that Phil was in.
Mm-hmm.
And also, can we just stop for a second and ask, what the hell were all those machines in the background of the of the prison monitor room? Because it looked like IBM from the 70s.
It's that whole, we need to put computers in here to make it look computery.
But it wasn't even computers. It was like these old-timey things with flashing lights and stuff.
Old-timey computers. It's a very old-fashioned prison system with very high-tech cameras. Wait.
It
was weird.
All of that was so contrived. It made no sense.
Yeah.
And frankly, it does mean that pretty much everybody at the end of this episode should be arrested.
Yeah, I mean,
Phil has been dealing drugs. Jordan is an accessory.
Yeah.
Grace for fraud for the points.
Yeah.
Gavin for basically letting his brother die.
Yeah.
Marcia for committing euthanasia.
Well, yeah. I mean, the only person who shouldn't be in jail is Sarah.
Yeah. And nobody else is getting arrested. Honestly, I don't think he would have arrested Hazel for murder, except she put the shears to Sarah's throat. And he says it. I'm arresting you for murder and assault on my wife.
Yeah,
which is like, all I really care about.
Yeah. It's like the other ones were like afterthoughts. The real punch was yeah.
Did you think that Phil's line about no one sees him, like he claims he's doing this because no one sees him as anything but a criminal, so he's dealing drugs. So was that just moral of the lie?
No, I do know that it's very hard for people who have a record to get jobs, and there are places that intentionally, companies that will hire people with records to give them that second chance, and they're way too few and far between. But I think it was an easy out for him to do that.
I think it was crap because he's telling us at the end. Like, I actually felt a little sympathy for him, but at the end he's like, "No, the drug dealers are forcing me to do this."
Yeah.
So I was like, "Oh, so it's not really that you couldn't find a job elsewhere. It's that you're being forced by drug dealers to deal drugs."
Yeah.
He's not an honest man.
He is not an honest man. Nobody in this show is honest except for Sarah.
No. And his lie was better.
His lie was better. Yeah.
He is a much better liar.
Yeah.
This episode had like with Serena and the tactical tier, this episode had all these little weird character things that were throwaway.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't really contribute to the plot. For example, the whole thing with Phil's pitcher plants, right? Luring the insects in.
Yeah.
I thought was going to lead to him being Madam X or Hazel being Madam X, right? Honey trap.
Yeah.
Luring the prey in.
Yeah.
It's not. It's just, no, we have man-eating plants.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a symbol that wasn't completely thought out completely. It didn't really work.
It just didn't go. Nothing worked. Nothing went anywhere.
Yeah.
In this. It's very frustrating.
Like,
it would have been interesting if Madam X, like, here's a Madam X actually helped trap his own son. Right?
Yeah.
That's more interesting. Like, Juliet's such a non-entity in this that it's like, oh, she threatened Serena. She was taking abuse. It would have been nice if we had seen any of that.
Yeah, and I think where things fall apart really for me in this episode, because we can deal with a lot of things that don't really work if the episode is good. But for me, and a waste of an actress, is that Laurel is a cipher through this whole thing. We hear her on the radio, and that's fine. We hear what other people think of her, but we don't get a sense of who she is. Gavin obviously is broken up, even though he goes into work, by her death, because there must be something. I mean, Aisha's in love with her, where is that person that would inspire?
Why is she the best friends with an 80-year-old?
And that's it. I mean, we needed that story. That would have humanized her. Because did she help this woman? Was she like, I did this charity thing?
She helped her husband kill himself.
Yeah, but how did they meet? Because initially I thought it was her grandmother, and then she said, I was her best friend. It's like, excuse me?
Well, they say that Laurel got the drugs to help Eddie die. And I'm like, was it cocaine? Because that seems to be what everyone else was doing.
Yeah. They touch on the fact that she has a mother and sister that she doesn't talk to, but we never hear anything about that. So this woman, the victim, and this has happened in other episodes, the initial victim is such a cipher that we are removed initially of all emotional connection to the murder. Yeah. And that is a big flaw.
She is also hugely recognizable. Like I said, this is, as we said in the cast highlights. Sorry, I was moving. Laurel, the actress who plays Laurel, is hugely recognizable. She is a big media personality. Like we only scratched the surface on all the media stuff that she's done. She has been an active BBC presenter and face for when this episode aired for close to 15 years. And she's given like nothing to do but basically dance and then die.
Yeah. And we barely see her face at all. I mean, we don't get a whole sense of her as a person. She's just a victim. And we need to have something to connect us emotionally to her death. And there isn't any emotion to her death.
Well, everyone keeps talking about her like she's so amazing. Like, Gavin fell for her right away. Really? The woman who's talking about like, hey, some people just need to die.
Yeah. And if that is her on radio personality and it's different from her normal personality, that needed to be explained. We get from Hazel that it's, that she seems to think that, radio Laurel and real Laurel are the same person.
Yeah.
Is that true? We don't know.
Well, nobody says otherwise.
Yeah.
Gavin, it's the whole Laurel Serena Gavin thing. That was Gavin's fault, not Laurel. So in essence, we see, again, there's just so much that doesn't make sense in this because I don't know why. It just doesn't feel.
They've spent so much time trying to work up this convoluted drug thing that underlies everything that they give short shrift to the characters.
Yeah. Like, I mean, Aisha is a character that I would have liked a few more minutes with because she murdered a rabbit and tied a tongue around it to send to the woman she claimed to love.
I thought the rabbit got hit by a car. But still,
that's not much better. Like, got hit by a car. Who was driving, Aisha?
Yeah.
Don't you ask questions.
I mean, it's like she was picking up roadkill and sending it to this person she loved. Yeah.
And tying a tongue over like. And by the way, that rabbit did not look like it got run over.
It did not look. It
didn't look real. Also, why was Aisha Laurel's maid of honor and not Marcia?
Yeah. Well, who wants an 80-year-old maid of honor? I guess. I don't know.
Who wants an 80-year-old best friend?
Yeah. I don't know. I want to know why Aisha was at the Hazel and Phil's house at after midnight, and they're up arguing.
That I was extrapolating. I extrapolated from that Jordan said he had talked to Aisha and Aisha confronted him, and then she left and he didn't kill her. So I think she was going to their place to tell them about that Jordan.
Yeah.
I think she was going to say that Jordan was the killer.
Yeah. But
and then she overhears.
Yeah, but why would she assume that they're up at like 1 a.m. or 12:30 to 1 a.m?
I mean, when you're dealing cocaine, you keep on out.
Why would she say, well, I'm going to tell them tomorrow, when they're going to be up? I mean, I would never drop by anyone's house, after 9 o'clock.
When's the last time you went? When is the last time you went to somebody's house to tell them that you knew who killed their daughter-in-law? That's you don't wait for that. You go.
I mean, why didn't you go to the police? That would have been a much better thing to do.
I don't know. I
mean, the whole Aisha's murder or death, accidental death, it just seemed unnecessary to the plot.
Yeah, it was one more clue.
Yeah, except it didn't really, wasn't much of a clue. Mm.
Over in Corner, this is still, I believe, the first season of Fleur. We're getting lots of little Fleur bits.
Yep.
She waxes philosophical about the effects of plastic surgery and man's quest for beauty.
Yep.
We learned that not only has she broken up with her vet boyfriend, who I believe we last heard about when she wanted to get Patty's nuts cut off.
Mm-hmm.
She broke up with him finally because of the smell.
Yeah.
But we also find out she has been married several times, including once in Vegas.
I'm surprised it was only once in Vegas, to be honest.
Yeah. I'm surprised it was once in Vegas on that trip. And then when they give her the dead rabbit in a very funny scene, they give her the dead rabbit.
I did like that scene. Yeah.
And she's like she just looks at it and just tells them how to cook it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know what? I bet she did.
Once it was completely defrosted.
And then it was nice to see Fleur and Sarah and Winter and Barnaby all hanging out at the pub, right?
Yeah.
But Fleur and Sarah is a dangerous alliance.
Yeah.
So we get to the detective work, and I think here's the other big problem I had with this is John should not be investigating this case.
Yeah.
He is friends with the victim's family, or is the victim's in-laws. His wife found the body. He was present for this.
Yeah.
He is technically, he falls into the category of potential suspect.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He should not be investigating this case. This is a fatal flaw when you only have 5 cops. Is that you need a backup every once in a while.
Yeah. That's when you call in somebody from the county over. Well, I've only investigated one murder because I don't live in Midsomer County.
Yep. We've had this issue before, where the detective is too close.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, in this case, this is legitimately, there's massive conflicts of interest here.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's also because his wife is now a potential suspect too.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. This is all, the same thing that, Tom investigating all those bodies that Joyce found.
See, I can understand Joyce finding a body and it's just not connected to it.
Yeah.
They knew this woman. They were at her wedding.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's everybody at that wedding is a potential suspect.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought it was also it just jumped out at me as weird as he admonished both separately Hazel and Aisha for lying to him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, dude, everybody's lying to you. Everybody's lied to you. Stop picking on the women.
Yeah. Gavin lies to him. I mean,
Gavin lied to you. Phil lied to you.
Yeah.
Jordan lied to you.
Yeah, he berates them, but not to the extent that he does with Hazel and Aisha. Yeah.
Yeah. We also got some nice Winter moments.
Mm-hmm.
We see his socks. When they go to Serena's dress shop and are forced to take their shoes off.
Yeah.
Great power move.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Very, very different power move. I'm surprised they did that.
I liked his socks.
I did like his socks.
They showed personality.
But one thing, and this is the thing that runs through because, and it may be just an American perspective, and our cops have guns and and they shoot people. They back down from suspects a lot when they either walk out or have a power move played on them with the shoes. These guys, I are just like rolling over for people who are potential murderers.
British.
Yeah.
They're British.
Yeah, and it's
They're
like
very polite.
they are very polite.
But no, it is uncomfortable. Like when you see someone's like I'm just gonna go do my thing now.
Yeah.
Like Judith did that. Judith walked up out of an interview, and I'm like,
Yeah.
and I'm just thinking in Law and Order where they'd be like, oh, you want to go do this downtown?
Yeah. Yeah. And they it's just so weird.
He also, I mean, Winter has to clean up vomit.
Yeah.
That maid of honor, like he should throws up, and he's kind of forced to clean it up for some reason. I'm like, this is a hotel.
Yeah.
They have staff.
Yeah.
But I do think he gets kind of like one of the funniest moments in the entire episode is they are trying to identify the song that Laurel plays. And Barnaby's like, I guess I'll start doing the research, and Winter just holds up his phone and Shazams it.
Yeah.
And Barnaby looks at him and just goes, it's going to be a pound in the jar every time you make me feel old.
Yeah.
And Winter's response was perfect. He just looks at him and goes, I'm not made of money.
Yeah. I thought that was a nice scene between them because, it shows the rapport that they have developed over the years. And I think it's one of the things that makes this a strong team, in the same way that Tom and Ben Jones were. Yes. They eventually got to the point where they could have that rapport.
Exactly. But this is still early. This is still early Winter.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was just a funny throwaway line.
Yeah.
And the home life, we got some nice John and Sarah backstory, which we had never had before.
It's actually my favorite part of this is John and Sarah and their relationship, and the fact that Sarah's organically part of the mystery here. She has a lot of very meaty role for Fiona to play in this one, and she gets a lot to do, which I really loved seeing.
Yeah, she's like, I listened to hours of this talk radio show.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, for you. I mean, that is the hardest part of this investigation.
Yeah, and you get that supportiveness that they have for each other.
I thought it was interesting. We learned that at the start of this episode, Barnaby is a cop for 25 years. Now, this episode, as we said, was 2018.
Yeah.
So we're getting near a point where Barnaby would have been on the force for 35 years. Time to retire. Time to retire. That's all I'm saying. Like that pension's got to be creeping up. The murder rate's not going to go down. So John and Sarah met in college. We learned they are college sweethearts, and that he met her while he was dressed as a tortoise.
Yeah.
In a big tortoise costume, and he got stuck in a door as he was asking her out. And Sarah thought that was charming, although Hazel correctly said, he's too weird and you shouldn't date him. We also learned that John wasn't, Hazel's a little shocked that John became a cop because he wasn't very action hero-y in school.
Yeah. She seems to have this very, I don't know, Lethal Weapon version of cops.
Yeah, it's like, that's why we have the sidekicks, Hazel.
Yeah.
John doesn't run, Winter runs.
Yeah.
And then, but then what you have at the end, because they've brought up this tortoise thing, right? So at the end, after we've had this really grim scene of the mother and father finding out that their one son let the other son die, and that the mother's gonna, we get this awkward as hell tone shift where Fleur, Sarah, and Winter arrive at the Barnaby home, and Barnaby is playing with Betty, and they're both in costumes, and Winter is in a tortoise costume, also roaring because Betty wanted to hear an animal roar.
Yeah.
It just felt like such an awkward
It felt like
turn.
It was an odd tone shift, and I felt like there should have been at least some sort of transition scene between the murder reveal and the home life scene, because it was such a, and it's not that the home scene was bad. I really liked it. I thought it showed a lot, and I loved watching him play with Betty as a father. And I love the way that Fiona Dolman just really leaned into, that line where where Sarah says, this is why I married him. This is the man I love. He's goofy. That's what I love. And it was a totally valid scene to have. It just, it needed a little bit of a transition because it's too abrupt.
It just felt weird.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we've already had them all kind of hanging out scene. This was sort of hat on a hat. We didn't really need it. It was a way because we had talked about a tortoise costume. It was like, oh, look, this tortoise costume still fits. I'm like, man, you were a big kid in college. You know what the episode should have ended on? So earlier in the episode, we've Barnaby and Sarah learned that Marcia was a party to her husband's euthanasia.
Mm-hmm.
Barnaby says he's going to have to report it. Sarah gives an understanding but very, very sad look.
Yeah.
Right? The ending of this episode should have been Barnaby sitting down with Sarah and saying, there's been so much pain in this case. I've decided to, no good will come from reporting Marcia.
Mm-hmm.
And having maybe a conversation about their, like how deep their love is compared to that love.
Yeah.
Right? That, I think, would have been a fitting ending because I think we've seen so many broken and unhappy marriages in this episode that the healthiest at the end on the happy couple doing something that was like doing the right thing, really.
Yeah.
It's like there is no point to prosecute. The actress was in her the actress the character's in the 80s. Like,
yeah.
There's no point to it.
And the scene of her, they have that little montage and the way she takes his pajamas while she's in bed and hugs them to her.
Yeah.
With that smile on her face, like, no matter what, I did the right thing because you're out of pain. And
Barnaby will bend the law when it suits his will.
Yeah.
There's no, like, I think it would have been a lovely ending to show that he's going to bend the law to help somebody or show a kindness to somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is the thing that his wife loves, that this is a man who is not just this fearless crusader. He is and goofy. He is compassionate.
Yeah.
And compassion is something Barnaby does not show a lot.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents. That's where I think the show should have
been. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think they should have at least had some scene where they end the Marcia thing, other than there's this threat of her being arrested hanging over her head. It just it didn't feel right to have that unresolved.
Or they could have brought in the in-laws, Sarah's parents, because we find out that they don't like John, and now I just want to see them so badly. And they've never made an appearance on this show, and I'm like, we need, like, before the characters would actually die in the real, in the reality of the situation, that her parents have to be like 80, like in their 80s. We need to see the in-laws. That one time where her mom was coming to visit and they were terrified. Like, there are these unseen forces of terror.
Yeah.
I think we need to see them.
Yeah. I mean, we see Tom's in-laws and he does discuss his father quite a bit in the final episode, but we don't get any sense of his parents at all that I remember, and I think it would be fun to have her parents stop by and create havoc.
Final thoughts?
Yeah, like I said, my favorite parts of this are the fact that we get so much into John and Sarah. The family life, I think, is the strong point here. I just think that there was just not enough developed on it. And some things were overdeveloped to the point of being too convoluted, and other things were underdeveloped to the point where we didn't get invested in them. And so they needed to find that happy medium in there. So it's ultimately kind of a forgettable episode. There's some nice things in it, and they should have leaned more into those nice things because this could have been there was a strong potential here, and it just didn't get realized.
I've already forgotten this episode.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I mean, you've hit it on the head. This episode it's forgettable. There's a lot of nice things to it, but yeah, it doesn't. There's no stickiness to it. It's nothing makes sense. Nothing is fully developed, and it wasted. I think it wasted some. You had some good actors in here, and I think it got wasted.
Yeah.
There's something about this episode that feels like they're missing, like it's missing like 10 minutes of something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like something that explains stuff in the episode or whatnot. But yeah, it just feels unfinished.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Well, that's everything we wanted to talk about. If you had anything you wanted to discuss about Till Death Do Us Part or Midsomer Murders, feel free to email us at welcometomidsomer@gmail.com. If you want us to use the email in the show, please say so in your email. We're also Welcome to Midsomer on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Please follow us in all these places. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to us or rating and reviewing us on iTunes and Spotify. That really helps people find us. Tell your friends about us. We're going to be back soon. We hope you will join us again. And as we take the road out of Midsomer, we want to thank you for listening and remind you that in Midsomer, taking a bow can be murder.
And usually is.
Welcome to Midsomer is produced by Eric Buscher and Eileen Becker. All clips in this podcast are used in compliance with the U.S. Copyrights Act Fair Use Exception for criticism and commentary. Our logo and podcast art was designed by Smeedrai. Our theme music is by the infamous Space. Hazel, Gavin, and Father Pill.